The Comanche warrior looked directly at Eulalia Washington through the storm and spoke the words that would change everything. "You're coming with me." Lightning split the night sky behind him. Water streamed from his weathered face. His presence filled the doorway like judgment itself. Sheriff Briggs had been shouting about eviction papers. His deputies had been waving documents and threats. The cabin door hung broken on its hinges. Rain swept across the threshold, mixing with the tears on young Clementine's cheeks. Now silence stretched between them all. Eulalia pulled her daughters closer. Temperance, 12 years old and fierce as wildcats, stepped forward. Her chin lifted in defiance. Clementine, barely 8, whispered something only her mother could hear. "Mama, his eyes aren't angry like theirs." The child spoke truth. Briggs wore rage like a second skin. His men carried violence in their posture. But this warrior studied the scene with calculating calm. He saw the terrified family. He saw the corrupt lawmen. He saw injustice dressed in legal papers. Briggs found his voice first. "Now hold on there, Chief. This ain't your concern." The warrior's gaze never left Eulalia. Rain drummed against the roof. Wind howled through gaps in the walls. The storm outside paled beside the storm brewing in this small room. "My land," Briggs continued, his voice losing its earlier confidence. "My jurisdiction." Still the warrior waited. His attention focused entirely on the woman before him. She stood broad and solid, her body telling the story of hard work and harder times. Her hands showed the calluses of a healer. Her eyes held the weight of recent grief. Marcus had been dead 6 months. The fever took him quick, leaving Eulalia to fight for their homestead alone. She'd been losing that fight until tonight. Temperance moved closer to her mother. "We don't have to go anywhere with anybody." Her voice carried more courage than her trembling hands revealed. She'd been protecting her family since her father's death. Too young for such burdens, too proud to admit the fear. Clementine pressed against Eulalia's side. The child possessed an unusual gift for reading people's hearts. She could sense truth beneath lies. Tonight she sensed something in the warrior that made her less afraid. "He's not like them," she whispered again. The warrior heard her. His expression softened slightly. He understood more English than he spoke. Years of trading and treaties had taught him the settler's tongue. He chose his words carefully. "Sheriff takes your land. Storm kills your children. You choose." Briggs stepped forward, hand moving toward his weapon. "You can't just take them. This is legal business." The warrior's attention shifted to the sheriff. Something passed between them. Recognition, history, fear. Briggs's hand stopped moving toward his gun. The silence stretched longer. Rain continued its assault on the roof. Wind rattled the windows. The broken door swung on its hinges. Eulalia studied the warrior's face. She'd learned to read men quickly since Marcus died. Some wanted her land. Others wanted to drive her away. A few wanted things she wouldn't give. This one wanted something different. "Where?" she asked. "Safe. Place warm, dry, food. For how long?" "Until you choose different." Briggs found his bluster again. "You can't trust him. These people don't honor agreements." The warrior's eyes flashed. "Your people poisoned my water, killed my family. Still I offer help." The words hit Eulalia like physical blows. Poisoned water. Her husband's fever hadn't been natural. The timing made sense now. The symptoms. The sudden illness that killed a strong man in days. "Marcus?" she whispered. The warrior nodded once. Same sickness. Same source. Rage built in Eulalia's chest, hot and righteous. Marcus had been murdered. The fever, the suffering, the lonely. Death, all deliberate. All part of someone's plan to steal their land. She looked at her daughters. Temperance stood ready to fight the world. Clementine held her skirts and trusted her mother's judgment. Both would die in this storm if she chose wrong. You have proof? Eulalia asked. I have truth. And help for the sick ones. What sick ones? Others like you. Others who lost everything. The warrior's words painted a picture. More families destroyed. More lives shattered. More land stolen through poison and murder. Thunder crashed overhead. The storm was worsening. They had minutes, not hours. We need our things, Eulalia said. No time. Take only what you carry. She moved quickly. Her medical supplies went into a leather bag. A few clothes for the girls. The deed to their land. Marcus's Bible. Everything else would have to stay. Temperance grabbed her school books. Education meant everything to her. Clementine clutched a wooden doll Marcus had carved, their father's last gift. This is kidnapping, Briggs said, but his voice lacked conviction. This is justice, the warrior replied. He waited as they gathered what they could carry. His presence filled the room with quiet authority. The deputies shifted nervously. They'd expected an easy eviction. Violence against a defenseless family. Instead, they faced something they didn't understand. Ready? The warrior asked. Eulalia looked around the cabin one last time. Marcus had built these walls with his own hands. Every board told a story. Every nail held memories. But memories wouldn't keep her daughters alive. She nodded. The warrior turned toward the storm. Follow close. Ground is dangerous. They stepped into the wind and rain. Lightning revealed the landscape in stark detail. Mud and stones, fallen trees, water rushing in new channels. Behind them, Briggs shouted something lost in the thunder. His threats meant nothing now. The storm swallowed his words. Ahead lay unknown territory, a stranger's promise, hope wrapped in uncertainty. But for the first time in months, Eulalia wasn't facing the future alone. The cave mouth opened before them like a wound in the earth. Talks to Thunder led them through passages that twisted deeper into stone and shadow. The storm's voice faded. Behind them, firelight flickered ahead. Voices carried on still air. The scent of cooking meat and herb smoke drifted through the darkness. They emerged into a vast chamber. Eulalia stopped breathing. Families clustered around small fires. Children played with carved toys. Women mended clothes by lamplight. Men spoke in hushed tones over maps and papers. White settlers. Comanche. Families, mixed groups she couldn't identify. All living together in organized peace. What is this place? Temperance whispered. Home, Talks to Thunder said. For those who lost their first home, an elderly white woman approached them. Her dress was patched but clean. Her eyes held the same wounded resilience Eulalia recognized in mirrors. I'm Margaret Henley. Lost. My farm to the sheriff 3 months back. She gestured toward a young Comanche mother nursing an infant. That's rain on stones. They poisoned her husband's hunting ground. The introductions continued. Each family carried the same story. Briggs had taken their land through legal trickery or outright violence. The poison had claimed their loved ones. The corruption had destroyed their lives. How many? Eulalia asked. 43 souls at last count, Margaret said. More arriving each week. Talks to Thunder found blankets for the girls. His movements were careful, deliberate. He understood. The fear in their eyes. Strange men had meant danger in their recent experience. Clementine watched him with curious intensity. Her gift for reading hearts worked overtime. She saw past the war paint to the grief beneath. He lost children too, she told her mother quietly. Eulalia's medical training kicked in. She moved through the cave, checking on the sick. Several families showed signs of the same poison that killed Marcus. Fever, stomach pain, weakness that lingered for weeks. You know healing, Talks to Thunder observed. Some, not enough to save my husband. Not your failing. The poison was strong, made to kill quick. His words carried weight. Certainty. He'd seen this before. How do you know? Talks to Thunder was quiet for a long moment. He stared into the fire, seeing memories in the flames. My wife, my 2 sons, they drank from the creek first. The words dropped into silence. Other conversations stopped. Everyone knew his story. Everyone carried pieces of the same loss. 3 days they suffered. I held them as they died. Eulalia felt the ground shift beneath her understanding. Marcus's death hadn't been random. It was part of a pattern. A deliberate campaign to clear the land of unwanted people. Who's doing this? She asked. Sheriff Briggs. The banker Morrison. Judge Caldwell. They buy land cheap from widows and orphans. Or they make widows and orphans, Margaret added bitterly. Temperance had been listening with growing anger. Her young face hardened in the firelight. They killed. Papa on purpose. Yes, Talks to Thunder said simply. The truth settled over them. Heavy and final. Marcus had been murdered for his water rights. His family had been left to starve or flee. The plan had nearly worked. Why help us? Eulalia asked. Because the poison came from your land. The creek that killed my family flows through your property. The revelation hit her like a physical blow. Their homestead sat at the source of the contamination. Marcus had died from water poisoned on his own land. We didn't know, she whispered. I know, but you can help stop it. Talks to Thunder spread a map on the ground. His finger traced the water's path, from Eulalia's creek to the Comanche camp, past 3 other homesteads, through the settlement where Margaret had lived. Someone puts poison here, he pointed to. A spot upstream from their cabin, kills everyone downstream. But why our land? Best water rights in the territory. Feeds half the county. Control the source, control everything. Eulalia studied the map. Her land wasn't just valuable, it was strategic. Whoever owned it could determine who lived and who died across miles of territory. What do you want from me? Partnership. You understand their law. I understand their lies. And if I say no, then you take your daughters and run. Keep running until they find you. The choice was simple. Fight or flee. Stand or fall. Temperance moved. Closer to the fire. What about the other families? The ones still getting sick? They need medicine, Talks to Thunder said. Herbs to clean the poison from their blood. I can make those medicines, Eulalia said. But I need my supplies. My books, too dangerous. Sheriff is watching your land. Then people will die. The words hung between them. More families would suffer. More children would lose parents. More poison would flow downstream. There might be another way, Margaret said slowly. If we could get you back to your land legally. How? File a claim with the territorial government. Show that the eviction was improper. Talks to Thunder shook his head. Sheriff has the judge in his pocket. Not the territorial judge, the federal one. The idea took shape as they talked. A legal challenge to Briggs's authority. A formal investigation into the land seizures. A chance to expose the corruption through proper channels. It's dangerous, Margaret warned. If we're wrong, if the federal judge is bought too, we'll all hang. If we do nothing, we'll all die anyway, Eulalia said. She looked at her daughters. Temperance sat straighter, ready to fight. Clementine nodded solemnly, trusting her mother's judgment. What do you need me to do? Talks to Thunder smiled for the first time since they'd met. Be brave. Be smart. Be yourself. The fire crackled between them. Outside, the storm was ending. Inside, something new was beginning. A partnership built on shared loss. A plan born from desperate hope. A family forming from the ashes of destroyed families. When do we start? Eulalia asked. Tomorrow. But first you rest. Heal the sick ones. Learn our ways. She settled her daughters near the fire. Temperance fell asleep quickly, exhausted by the night's events. Clementine stayed awake longer, watching the cave's strange community. "They're good people," she whispered to her mother. "Yes, they are. Are we going to stay? For now. Until we figure out what comes next." Eulalia pulled her daughters close. The cave walls held them safe from the storm. The fire kept them warm. The people around them shared their burdens. For the first time since Marcus died, she felt hope stirring in her chest. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The fight for their land was just beginning. But tonight, they were not alone. The trading post rose from the Texas earth like hope made manifest. Eulalia's hand shaped every board, every nail. Talks to Thunder's knowledge guided every decision. Their children worked alongside them, building something that had never existed before. The federal judge had ruled in their favor. The land belonged to Eulalia by right of marriage and law. Sheriff Briggs could not touch it without proper cause. The victory felt hollow against the weight of Marcus's death, but it gave them ground to stand on. "First customers coming," Temperance called from the lookout. A wagon approached from the east. White settlers, by their dress and bearing. The man drove with careful hands. His wife held a baby wrapped in worn blankets. Eulalia wiped her palms on her apron. Everything depended on this moment. Their first real test of whether different worlds could meet in peace. The wagon stopped at the hitching post. The man stepped down slowly, his eyes taking in the unusual sight. A black woman standing beside a Comanche warrior. Children of different colors playing together in the dust. "You open for business?" he asked. "We are," Eulalia replied. "What do you need?" "Medicine for the baby. She's been sick since the fever passed through." Eulalia's healer instincts took over. She approached the wagon, her movements calm and professional. The woman held the infant protectively, but allowed the examination. "Dehydration," Eulalia diagnosed. "From the stomach sickness. I can help." She prepared a mixture of herbs and clean water. The baby took it readily, her small body responding to the treatment. Color returned to her pale cheeks. "How much do we owe you?" The man asked. 2 bits, or trade goods of equal value." He paid without question. His wife smiled through her tears of relief. Their baby was going to live. Word spread quickly through the territory. The trading post offered fair prices and skilled healing. Eulalia's reputation as a medicine woman grew with each successful treatment. But success brought scrutiny. "Some folks ain't happy about your setup here," warned Jonas Miller, a sympathetic settler. "They think you're getting too big for your place." Eulalia continued grinding herbs, her movements steady despite the warning. "What place is that? You know what I mean. There's talk of boycotts. Maybe worse." Talks to Thunder emerged from the supply room. His presence alone made Jonas nervous. The warrior's reputation preceded him in both white and Comanche communities. "Let them talk," Talks to Thunder said quietly. "We follow the law." "The law ain't always enough," Jonas muttered. He rode away, leaving dust and worry in his wake. That evening, Eulalia sat with Talks to Thunder on the porch. The sun painted the sky in shades of fire and gold. Their children played in the yard, their laughter carrying on the wind. "You ever wonder if we're doing the right thing?" she asked. "Every day. But you keep going. Because the alternative is worse." A rider approached from the south, young, nervous, glancing over his shoulder. He dismounted with shaking hands. "Ma'am, I need help." "There's been an accident." Eulalia gathered her medical supplies. The rider led them to a creek 2 miles away. A man lay unconscious beside the water, his leg twisted at an unnatural angle. "Fell from his horse," the rider explained. "Been out cold for an hour." Eulalia knelt beside the injured man. His pulse was weak but steady. The leg was broken, but the bone hadn't pierced the skin. "Help me get him to the post," she ordered. They fashioned a stretcher from branches and blankets. The injured man groaned as they lifted him, consciousness flickering behind his eyelids. Back at the trading post, Eulalia worked through the night. She set the broken bone, treated the concussion, monitored his breathing. Talks to Thunder helped hold the patient still during the painful procedures. By morning, the man was stable. His eyes focused when he spoke. The fever had broken. "You saved my life," he said weakly. "Just doing what needs doing. I'm Deputy Coleman, work for Sheriff Briggs." Eulalia's hands stilled on the bandages. A deputy, in her care. At her mercy. "I know what you're thinking," Coleman continued. "But I ain't like him. I don't agree with what he's been doing." "Then why work for him?" "Because someone needs to watch him. Keep track of his crimes." The words hung in the air between them. Talks to Thunder studied the deputy's face, looking for lies beneath the pain. "You're a spy," Temperance said from the doorway. "I prefer to think of myself as a concerned citizen." Clementine approached the bedside. Her gift for reading hearts worked overtime. She stared into Coleman's eyes for a long moment. "He's telling the truth," she announced. "But he's scared." "Scared of what?" Eulalia asked. "My uncle." "Sheriff Briggs. He's planning something big." The revelation shifted everything. Coleman wasn't just a deputy. He was family. Blood connected to their enemy. "Why should we trust you?" Talks to Thunder asked. "Because he killed my sister." The words dropped into silence. Coleman's face twisted with old grief and fresh anger. "Sarah was married to a homesteader. Had a little spread north of here. Good water, good land. Briggs wanted it. The poison?" Eulalia guessed. "Worse. Made it look like Indians did it. Burned the house. Killed them both." Talks to Thunder's hands clenched into fists. His people had been blamed for murders they didn't commit. Their reputation, stained with blood they never spilled. "How long ago?" 6 months. Right before your husband died." The timeline fit. Marcus's death was part of a larger pattern. A campaign of terror designed to clear the land of unwanted people. "What's he planning now?" Eulalia asked. "A big raid. Going to claim you're harboring fugitives. Seize the land under territorial law." "When?" "Soon. Maybe a week. Maybe less." Eulalia felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. 43 souls depended on her decisions. Families who had lost everything trusted her leadership. "What do you want from us?" she asked Coleman. "Let me help. I've been gathering evidence, documents, witness statements. Enough to hang him. If we can get it to the right people, the territorial judge? Hire federal marshals. They're investigating corruption in the territory." Hope flickered in Eulalia's chest. Justice through proper channels. Law instead of vigilante violence. "If you're lying," Talks to Thunder said quietly, "if this is a trap, I will find you." "I understand. And if you betray these families, if you cause harm to these children, there will be no place to hide." "I understand that too." Coleman's eyes held steady under the warrior's gaze. Fear lived there, but also determination. A man who had lost everything had little left to lose. "We'll need proof," Eulalia said. "Evidence that can't be questioned." "I have it, hidden in town. Documents showing the land sales. Records of the poisoning, names of everyone involved. Can you get it here? If I'm careful, if I'm smart." The trading post felt different now, no longer just a business, but a fortress. A place where justice might take root in poisoned soil. "How long do we have?" Eulalia asked. "Not long enough," Coleman replied. Outside, the sun climbed toward noon. Customers would arrive soon. The business of survival would continue. But underneath the normal rhythms of trade and healing, something larger was stirring. A reckoning was coming. The question was whether they would be ready. The dust cloud rose from the south, like a brown curse against the morning sky. Sheriff Briggs rode at the head of 8 mounted men, their weapons gleaming in the sunlight. Behind them came a wagon loaded with chains and legal papers. Eulalia stood on the trading post porch, her hands steady despite the fear crawling up her spine. Talks to Thunder emerged from the supply room, his presence solid and reassuring. The children gathered behind them, Temperance clutching her schoolbooks, Clementine holding her wooden doll. "Remember the plan," Eulalia whispered. Coleman limped from the back room, his legs still weak from the break. In his hands he carried a leather satchel stuffed with documents. Evidence of corruption. Proof of murder. The key to everything. "You ready for this?" Eulalia asked him. "Been ready for months." The riders stopped at the hitching post. Briggs dismounted slowly, his eyes scanning the trading post with predatory interest. His men spread out in a loose circle, hands resting on gun butts. "Eulalia Washington," Briggs called out. "You're under arrest for harboring fugitives and conspiracy against territorial authority." "On whose authority?" Eulalia replied calmly. "Mine. I got a warrant signed by Judge Caldwell." He waved a folded paper in the air. The document looked official enough, but Eulalia had learned to read between the lines of corrupt men's promises. "I'd like to see that warrant," she said. "You'll see it from inside a jail cell." Talks to Thunder stepped forward. His movement was smooth, controlled, but it spoke of coiled violence. The deputy shifted nervously. "The lady asked to see the warrant," he said quietly. "This ain't your concern, Chief." "Everything that happens on this land is my concern." The tension stretched taut between them. Briggs's men outnumbered them, but numbers didn't tell the whole story. The trading post had become a symbol of something larger. Justice, equality, the right to exist without fear. "Uncle." Coleman's voice cut through the standoff. He limped forward, the satchel heavy in his hands. Briggs's face went white. "What are you doing here, boy?" "My job, the one you gave me." "Your job is in town, with the badge I gave you." "My job is to serve justice, to protect the innocent." Coleman opened the satchel. Documents spilled onto the porch. Legal papers. Bank. Records, death certificates. A mountain of evidence built from months of careful investigation. "Ladies and gentlemen," Coleman announced, his voice carrying across the yard, "I present evidence of Sheriff Briggs's crimes against the people of this territory." More riders appeared on the horizon, but these weren't deputies. Families from the surrounding area. Settlers who had heard rumors of the confrontation. People who had lost loved ones to the poison. Witnesses to corruption. Margaret Henley rode in the lead, her face grim with determination. Behind her came Jonas Miller, the nervous settler who had warned them about boycotts. Raynon Stones followed on foot, her baby strapped to her back. "What's this about?" Briggs demanded. "Truth," Eulalia said simply. She picked up the first document from Coleman's pile. A bank record showing payments to Judge Caldwell. Money changing hands for favorable rulings. "This shows bribes paid to territorial officials," she announced to the gathering crowd. The second document was worse. A letter in Briggs's own handwriting, discussing the best locations to introduce poison into water supplies. "This details the systematic poisoning of families across the territory." Briggs drew his weapon. "That's enough." "No," Talks to Thunder said, "it's just beginning." He stepped between Briggs and Eulalia. The sheriff's gun wavered, unsure of its target. "You killed my family," Talks to Thunder continued. "Poisoned my children. Blamed my people for murders we didn't commit. I was protecting this territory from savages. You were stealing land from families, making widows and orphans for profit." More documents came to light. Death certificates falsified to hide poisoning symptoms. Land deeds transferred at impossibly low prices. A network of corruption that reached from the sheriff's office to the territorial capital. "How many people died for your scheme?" Eulalia asked. Briggs's gun hand shook. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool morning air. You don't understand the pressures, the quotas. The territorial government wanted results. They wanted land cleared legally, not through murder. Sometimes the law ain't enough. The law is all we have, Coleman said quietly. Without it, we're just animals. The crowd pressed closer. Faces filled with anger and grief. Families who had lost everything to Briggs's corruption. People who had trusted him to protect them. What do you want? Briggs asked desperately. Justice, Eulalia replied. Through proper channels. She gestured toward the eastern horizon. A new dust cloud approached, but this one flew federal colors. U.S. Marshals responding to Coleman's carefully crafted reports. You contacted the Federals, Briggs realized. Someone had to. The Marshals arrived with efficiency and authority. They took custody of the documents, arrested Briggs and his co-conspirators, and promised a full investigation into territorial corruption. What happens now? Temperance asked as the prisoners were led away. Now we build, Eulalia said. The trading post became the foundation for something unprecedented. A community where different peoples could coexist in peace. Where justice was. Colorblind and opportunity belonged to everyone willing to work for it. Eulalia received the first federal license granted to a black woman in the territory. Talks to Thunder was appointed as an official liaison between the Comanche Nation and the territorial government. His knowledge of both cultures made him invaluable in preventing future conflicts. Temperance started a school that welcomed children regardless of their background. Her classroom became a symbol of integrated education, proving that learning knew no racial boundaries. Clementine grew into her gift for reading hearts, becoming a skilled mediator who helped resolve disputes between communities. Her ability to see truth beneath lies made her invaluable in negotiations. 1 year later, the trading post hosted its first anniversary celebration. 3 communities gathered in peace. Black settlers, white homesteaders, and Comanche families shared food and stories under a clear Texas sky. Above the trading post flew a unique flag. Symbols from all 3 cultures woven together into something new. A banner that represented not conquest, but cooperation. Eulalia stood on the porch, watching the celebration unfold. Children played together in the dust. Adults shared trades and conversation. The future looked different than anyone had imagined. You did it, Margaret Henley said, joining her at the railing. We did it, Eulalia corrected. All of us together. Talks to Thunder approached with 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Eulalia, their fingers brushing briefly. The simple touch carried the weight of shared struggle and mutual respect. What's next? He asked. More trading posts. More communities. More proof that different peoples can live together. In peace, the sun set over the Texas plains, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. The trading post stood solid against the horizon, a testament to what could be built when people chose cooperation over conflict. From desperate refugees to community leaders, they had proven that strength came from unity rather than division. The American dream belonged to everyone willing to fight for it. The flag fluttered in the evening breeze, its symbols catching the last light of day. Below it, 3 communities celebrated not just survival, but transformation. They had not just changed their own lives. They had changed the very definition of what America could become. And that is all to the story for now. Please let me know where you are tuning in from. Perhaps we will create a story there. Consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. And if you enjoy our content, click this video on your screen. I promise you, it's worth watching. See you tomorrow.